Hello, I'm Dr. Mary Meehan. As a Catholic university, Seton Hall University is committed to supporting educational achievement within our community. That's why we're proud to support the important educational programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, Investors Bank, Seton Hall University, where leaders learn, PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities, Hackensack Meridian Health, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, and by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Insurance fraud costs New Jersey families $1,300 a year. Promotional support provided by The Record, North Jersey's trusted source, and NorthJersey.com, and by JerseyBites.com.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Welcome to One-on-One. I'm Steve Adubato. We're coming to you from the Tisch WNET studio here in the heart of Lincoln Center. I'm going to introduce the young man next to me. Terrence McNally. It just says playwright here. That's ridiculous. You are a national treasure. You've done, you've said you've been in the business almost 60 years, but not close.
Getting close, 56, I think.
How about this? Can I just give you a quick sense of this? Bob Morris, as we're our director doing this. Right now, Fire and Air, new play, and in rehearsals, right?
Yeah.
Anastasia.
On Broadway.
Okay. 44th Street. How about this? Kiss of the Spider Woman, Ragtime. What does it again say that? Love, Valor, Compassion. What, Frankie and Johnny. What are you, an underachiever?
Yeah, I guess. I just do what I love. I love what I do.
How'd you get into it?
I think I was very lucky. My grandfather, I didn't grow up in the city. I grew up all over America, but mainly Texas. That's where I hit adolescence. That's when life, you remember things when the hormones are raging. I had a grandfather who lived in New York, and he was sort of sophisticated.
Wow.
And I'd come to New York sometimes in the summer. And when I was about 6, he took me to see Ethel Merman and Annie Get Your Gun.
What did it do for you?
Yeah, I just said, this is great. Didn't think I wanted to be a playwright. Then when I was about 10 or 11, he took me to see The King and I with Gertrude Lawrence and Yul Brynner. And I thought, we don't have this in Texas, but I still wanted to be a journalist.
When did you come to New York?
17 when I went to Columbia.
23, your first
and I haven't
play.
left since.
You love this city?
Yeah, truly. But I still feel like a visitor here. I don't feel like a New Yorker. I don't think I ever will.
You know, you told me, Terrence, before we started the program, that you did your first play at 23.
3 or 4, yeah. Really
you said it ran for a couple of weeks. You said it was not a huge hit.
Not at all.
Biggest changes in theater, in this city, over these few years?
There's less of it, and the stakes are higher. It's not just the productions cost more. It's just the odds are stacked against you in a way. New York was totally a theater town when I came here. Now, theater is a niche part of New York, I'd say. Everybody in New York knew My Fair Lady. When I first came to New York, everybody in New York wanted to see My Fair Lady. You know, it was like, well, I've never been to it, but I live in New York. I'm a New Yorker. You know, we got My Fair Lady at the Mark Hellinger. The way the town is proud of its team, everybody in New York was proud of Broadway, and that, I don't feel that's quite as true.
So I don't want to make too big a deal about Hamilton, but did it change anything?
Hamilton?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
For theater?
Yeah.
How so?
Yeah. Oh, well, just culturally, that there's a whole new kind of music being heard. And it broke every barrier in cast.
New audiences, potentially?
It's getting audiences that have never seen a show before, Broadway show, which is great. Not everybody's as lucky to have a grandfather take them to see Ethel Merman when they're 6 years old. But that's how you get an audience for tomorrow, is get young people into those seats.
As we show some footage from Anastasia, talk about it, why it matters. What drew you to it?
Well, I think it's a wonderful story. It's a modern fairy tale. It's sort of based on history. I mean, you know, the Romanov family was shot down by the Bolsheviks, but there was a body missing in the mass grave. Where was the Princess Anastasia? They finally proved as late as mid-90s, 1995, they found bones in another grave. They've identified it as hers. But people wanted to believe this romantic, wonderful story that one girl survived, and she found her family. She reconnected. So the big themes of the show are love, home, family. And I think that's very instinctual in all of us.
Very much at the core.
And it's romantic. And what I also love is the Russian Revolution was the end of old Europe. And what was going on in Paris, where the second act takes place, is the beginning of the explosion of the arts, what we call Stravinsky, Picasso. They were also, we have a repressive first act and a very joyful second act in Paris, City of Light and Hope. And it's really just, all these things appeal to me when they ask me to do it.
Let me ask you, sorry for interrupting, a musical, writing a musical versus...
a play, yeah.
Fire and Air. Yeah. Very different?
Oh, very different, because the buck stops 100% with me. I wrote every word of it. Well, in a musical, when they sing a song, I hope you like the song, but I had nothing to do with it. You know, my shoulders can drop a little bit. But a play just comes out of my head.
All on you?
Yeah, it's all on me. And Anastasia, I hope you feel one person wrote it, but actually I wrote it with Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty. We've written, it's our third musical. Ragtime is our most known at this point, and which I think is a great, great permanent addition to the repertoire. I'm very proud of that show. I think good musicals are based on big stories. And Anastasia, my preferred version would have been 8 hours long. There's so many wonderful events I had to leave out. Ragtime, every page of that novel just leaps to my mind, this would be great in the theater.
Terrence, for those of us who have no clue as to how you do what you do.
Yeah, I don't either.
Stop.
I don't. I work on instinct.
Okay, but you got characters.
Yeah.
How do they? What comes first?
What comes first? Always character.
Always.
Yeah, and a situation. There has to be a situation. You can be the most interesting man in the world, but if you live by yourself in a room, no one's going to know you're interesting. So the playwright puts that interesting man in an interesting situation.
Wow. Describe Fire and Air. Describe it.
Well, interesting situation there. A guy decides that all Russia is based on European art, and it's nothing authentically Russian, and he wants to drag Russia into the 20th century. The same time the revolution is happening, he wants to get rid of tutus and Swan Lake and Tchaikovsky and come up with Rite of Spring, Afternoon of the Fawn, Stravinsky, Debussy, Picasso, people like that. And it's the invention of the 20th century, this one man who came from the sticks. So I identify with him. I grew up in I grew up pretty much in Corpus Christi, Texas. He grew up in a place called Perm, Russia, but the word Diaghilev means great impresario who had the gift to bring the right people into the room, the rehearsal room. That's a great...
I'm curious about something else about you. So many things fascinate me about what you do and how you interact with people. In this sense, given the fact that you're a mature and experienced professional in the field, I hear so much talk about dealing with millennials and how challenging it is. And again, in broadcasting and in my work, we have a whole range of very talented so-called millennials. Do you see any significant difference in interacting and engaging so-called millennials in the work that you do in theater versus anyone else? Loaded question, I know.
Yeah, I think theater appeals to something so basic in the human spirit, to be told a good story, to sit around a campfire and the village elder is telling us a myth, a story. And it goes back to the Greek theater. They went and saw plays. They knew the plot of Oedipus Rex before the curtain went. Well, they didn't have curtains before the sun set.
They knew.
They knew it was going to end badly, but they learned something by the ritual of theater, of being reaffirmed of basic human values. And I think that'll always be true.
Transcends age.
It really does. I don't worry about theater dying. I worry about, I wish we had a theater that was more accessible to people with less money. I don't like seeing it become considered, oh, it's for the elite, the 1%. No, theater is, Broadway used to be a community theater. I'd like to see that happen again. I'm part of the community. You know, it's not cheap to go to a Yankees game either.
No, it's not. For those of us who are
nothing's
Yankees
cheap.
fans, we
Yeah,
know that.
so you know, we gotta. But I don't think we're going to go away.
Last question. Advice for those who say they want to do what... I love when people say do what you do because they have no idea what you do, but they want to write in theater.
Tell your own story. You know, Oscar Wilde said it best, be yourself, everybody else is taken. And so many young people, I'm going to write Hamilton again. No, Hamilton's been written. It's been written. Write your Hamilton. Make it up. You're the only one who can tell your story. And when I try to teach, if I can get someone to speak in their own voice, I feel I've succeeded. You know, don't sound like anybody else. We really are unique. But it's very hard to find that. You know, we're told,
Sure is.
be like everybody else. Don't be in the arts, you'll be poor. Well,
Terrence McNally. It says here, national treasure. You're more than that. You're a teacher, and you're a motivator, and you've inspired a bunch of people. And by the way, do you mind if I tell everyone again? Anastasia over at...
Ambassador... I'm sorry.
Where is it? It's at the... I thought it was at the
Broadhurst.
The Broadhurst.
I
I'm
said
sorry.
Ambassador.
I'm
Yeah,
plugging. Let me do the plugging.
Okay.
Over on 44th Street in Fire and Air.
At CSC on 13th Street.
Look at you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Pleasure.
Be right back right after this.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are pleased to welcome Sally Mott Freeman, author of The Jersey Brothers, a missing naval officer in the Pacific, and his family's quest to bring him home. Good to see you, Sally.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
We are not going to spoil this for anyone. We want people to go out and get this book. Real-life story of three brothers.
Yes.
Set it up for us.
Three naval officers.
World War II?
World War II. All of them went to the Naval Academy. Two much older than the youngest. One class of 30, one class of 33, and the youngest entered the academy in 36. And he only made it through 2 years, finished at Chapel Hill. By then, the mandatory draft had been signed into law, and my father, who was the middle brother, helped him get a commission in the
Say it again. Your father.
My father, Bill, who was the middle brother, naval intelligence officer, helped his youngest brother get a commission with the Navy Supply Corps. Yes.
Talk about that.
My father, Bill, is the one in the middle, and this youngest, Barton, who was unaccounted for at the end of World War II, this is his high school graduation. You see, he was quite small. He was a premature baby, the beloved youngest member of this family. And the fellow on the right, Benny, was the gunnery officer on the USS Enterprise Naval Academy class of 30. So World War II broke out. My father was ordered to the White House from Naval Intelligence to set up a secret map room in the basement. The State Department didn't know about it.
What was the year?
It was the very beginning of 1942, right after, within weeks after Pearl Harbor.
So Roosevelt.
Yes, Roosevelt.
FDR.
FDR. And Benny was on the USS Enterprise, returning from Pearl Harbor a day late. They arrived on December 8th. They were delivering bombers to Wake Island, and so they narrowly escaped Pearl Harbor. And it was one of the few ships unscathed by that in the Pacific. And it went out again and again and again, the Doolittle raid, all the early hit-and-run raids, Midway, and other early battles, the most decorated warship in American naval history. But this youngest brother was sent to the Philippines right after he was commissioned, and he was wounded and listed as missing. And it's really about the search for the youngest brother by the older two. And it was a very painful, repressed family mystery for my father after the war. It caused a lot of tension with his parents. And
what about for you?
Well, and then the children of that conflict. If it's an unresolved issue, it recedes in time, but it does not recede in corrosive effect on family, because you see your parent really struggling with this. And he had a certain explanation for what happened, and my grandmother disagreed with it. And so I found his White House files when I was organizing.
In your 10 years of research?
10 years of research. I found his White House files in the beginning of his own search for his missing brother from the White House map room, and several letters back and forth with Benny on the Enterprise, sort of trying to sort of lay the groundwork for this search. And several comments about his conversations with Roosevelt, who was very sympathetic, also had a son in the Pacific.
That's right.
And I was intrigued, and I sort of picked up where he left off. I went to the Philippines, I went to all the prison camps, I interviewed former prisoners of war, people that my father's first hire in the White House map room, who was extremely helpful, fellow sailors on the Enterprise with Benny, the eldest. And I did find out what happened, and it was a shocking revelation because it was entirely different from what the family was told in the 40s.
You also, so many pieces, so many aspects of your research, your grandmother's diary?
Yes, diaries. She kept diaries during World War II, and I found my dear cousin in New Jersey who actually had a box stacked with letters from former prisoners of war talking about their experiences, many of whom I found. And he said, you know, I think that she had diaries, but I think that they were lost. And so 3 years later, I had a fairly workable draft. And he came to my own mother's funeral at Arlington Cemetery. And before we left to sort of caravan over to Arlington, he put a stack of books on my desk, and they were her wartime diaries. And I read them that night. It was sort of this curious mix of losing my mother but rediscovering my grandmother, a side of her, frankly, that I really had never seen. And so I started over and threaded her voice into the story because it was really crucial. She was right, by the way. She wrote letters to Roosevelt, Truman, the secretaries of the Army, the Navy, congressmen, senators.
She needed to know.
She was a mom, and she was maybe the original helicopter mother.
Yeah. And
she was very astute. She was a Wellesley graduate. She graduated from college at a time when 3% of the women in this country went to college. And she was sort of type A, you know. She wanted to know. And she was not alone because there were many parents and families of men trapped in the Philippines on Bataan and on Corregidor. And Roosevelt's strategy was Europe first, and then we, you know, avenge the defenders. They felt, these families felt, and said, Germany didn't attack this country, Japan did. Let's go save these men. But they were in the Philippines, and we didn't have the resources to go get them. So it was really she was part of a movement called the Bataan Relief Organization that put a lot of pressure on Washington to amend their policy. And of course, here my father was working at Roosevelt's elbow when his mother just would not quit writing letters. But in retrospect, you know, an incredible story.
In the limited time we have left, let me ask you, what has this book done for you?
Oh, well, first of all, it's given me tremendous closure because I saw my father struggle with this. It didn't come up a lot, but when it sprang from its dark corner, it was, you know, usually a difficult stretch in the family. It was a wonderful writing experience. I've been a writer my entire career, but this was a new project for me, and it's been an amazing experience. I mean, I won't say I didn't shed a few tears as I made some discoveries, but it was a work of passion, labor of love, and it's had an amazing reception. So I couldn't be happier.
Finally, for so many families struggling, excuse me, to find out. What's your message to them?
There are over 40,000 families in this country who have a loved one that did not return from a foreign war, all wars. And I have had, you know, hundreds of letters. How did I pursue this? How did I pursue that? Because for them, there's no closure. And closure is what they crave. And so I spend as much time talking about my book as I do trying to help them, you know, go to the resource. The resources have expanded, and you know, if it helps one person achieve the closure that I achieved for my own family, I'll have done my job.
We thank you. We thank you very much, Sally Mott Freeman. The book is called The Jersey Brothers, A Missing Naval Officer in the Pacific, and his family's quest to bring him home. Extraordinary work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here.
We'll be right back right after this.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We're speaking to some of the most interesting, compelling educators in the state of New Jersey here at the NJEA Convention in Atlantic City. I'm pleased to welcome Patricio Molina, 2017 NJEA Award of Excellence recipient, Associate Director of the Conservatory, Newark School of the Arts. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Let's explain this award. Award for Excellence recipient. What is it for?
So right now, well, I came to this country when I was 13 years old. From Chile. And I studied, in the school system here, looking for more opportunities, looking for, to educate myself. And right now, I'm the associate director of the Newark School of the Arts, and I'm doing a lot of work with children.
You're teaching music?
I teach music.
But go back a little bit. You're 2, you told me you were 2, 2.5. You start playing the piano. Why?
I have no idea. This is as far as I can remember. One of my first memories, I was probably 3 years old, and one of my first memories, I was tickling the ivories. And then all of a sudden, people were saying that I was a prodigy.
You were the prodigy.
And
Did people come around to listen to you?
Yeah. So I had no idea what the word meant.
Prodigy.
I didn't even know how to spell it. I didn't know how to spell. So, and then I remember I was playing for Pavarotti and the King of Jordan.
The Pavarotti.
The Pavarotti.
And the King of Jordan.
And the King of Jordan. And I was so young, I didn't even know who these people were.
Right.
All I knew is they were important people, and
yes.
I was just concentrating in tickling those ivories.
Yeah. So where does you love performing, you love being the musician you are, but the teaching of music, describe it.
Teaching of music, I think, is very important. It's one of the most important things for our communities. Right now, I'm the associate director of the Conservatory at Newark School of the Arts.
Explain to folks what that means.
So a conservatory is a very high-level music education program. And what we do is, Newark is a great melting pot. And
it's my hometown, so I know it well.
It's a great town. And I believe that is the essence of what America is all about. And right now in Newark, we have this, we're at the bottom of that, that melting pot.
Right.
And I feel like a very important part of bringing that student all the way to the top.
What do you see in these students when you're teaching them? What do you see in their eyes and their hearts? What do you see?
A lot of passion. They, passion about life, passion about music. And you see it all over Newark. Students that come to my school all the time to better themselves. They really see, a great future for the community and for themselves. And I'm happy to be able to help them with that growth.
What does it feel like for you when you take a student who may be curious about music but lacks self-confidence, self-esteem, he or she believes can't be done, and you see them grow, you see them get through it?
That's what we do. That's the purpose of our school. That's the purpose of the Newark School of the Arts. We take anyone that wants to better themselves, and we just...
You don't have to be a prodigy.
You don't have to be a prodigy. You just have to want to, be the best you can be, and we'll take care of that, of the rest. And so for example, there was a student that came to for an audition a couple of months ago that learned, because she couldn't afford lessons or anything, she would learn how to play by watching YouTube videos. And
really?
Our school proudly accepted her with a scholarship so we can give her the instructions that she deserves, that she wants to better herself.
What's happened with her? How has she grown?
Now she's studying at the Newark School of the Arts, and we're very proud to say that she has a professional instructor, and we'll see where the talents take her in the future.
I'm curious about something. You loved music as a kid. You started playing at around 3 in Chile. You're here now in America, in New Jersey, in Atlantic City at this convention, being honored by your colleagues. How proud are you to be a teacher?
Obviously I'm very proud. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful experiences of my life is to see someone that comes to my class or to my school with that vision, and to be able to turn that vision into a reality.
Were you born to teach?
I was born to do music, and that music, I transferred as a teacher to other people.
Is it a gift that you want to give? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is it a gift that you want to give to those students?
A gift of teaching, a gift of music?
Yes, a gift of music.
Yeah. Yeah, music I think is a very important part of the community, and right now I'm actually doing a double doctorate. I'm writing a dissertation, and the dissertation is all about, actually the topic you'll find it very interesting. It's about finding parallels between the techniques of rhetoric, about persuading audiences, and finding parallels for music. Because I believe that classical music is very powerful, but we have a problem with connecting with audiences,
right?
With people of my generation, new audiences. We cannot access it. So I'm writing a dissertation, which I'm going to turn into a book later, on the techniques that musicians like myself can use to persuade younger generations, new audiences, to love and appreciate the arts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That was great.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, Investors Bank, Seton Hall University, PSE&G, Hackensack Meridian Health, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, and by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Perfectly orchestrated, in sync with your life. Hackensack Meridian Health is redefining how health and care come together. Because when everything works together, your world gets better. Hackensack Meridian Health, life years ahead.